Welcome to Sugar's Office, everybody.
Hello.
This is Grant and Sandra. We'll get to that in just a minute. We'll play a little music for you.
Don't panic, it's only me, Gracie Law.
Seeing you guys inside
What are
here.
you doing here?
Don't panic, it's only me, Gracie Law.
I don't know what that's from.
Gracie Law, it's our house band.
Oh. Who, are they looking here? Oh, cool. That's fun. Is there a big Wichita music scene?
It's coming back. It's trying to. A lot of the clubs are comedians and music. So it's like Beach Boys.
Yeah, it has a little surf vibe to it.
Yeah. Okay, we had to play a little Gracie Law to get started.
Yeah. Man, speaking of like local music, we talked to Barry Harris yesterday. Do you know who that is?
Uh-oh.
Oh man, he's like a 88-year-old guy, and he just plays the blues. He's in the Blues Hall of Fame, and
Here in town?
he's in the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. He's in like a bunch of different Hall of Fames, and he's an 88-year-old guy. And he plays at Pig In and Pig Out, the barbecue place.
Yeah.
He's just there on Friday afternoon.
Where Wiz works.
Yeah, where Wiz works, and he just plays, like we go in for lunch, and he just plays during the lunch. And you're like, man, this guy seems like a anonymous nobody. And then you talk to him, and he's like, oh yeah, man, I used to tour with these people and these people, and I'm in the Hall of Fame and all this sort of stuff. You look him up, and it's so crazy. And it's just like he's playing for like 4 people who are barely paying attention.
Okay, this is Grant Lyon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Comedian from L.A.
Yep.
Sandra Balan from Dallas. They both did a show last night, a couple shows last night at the Looney Bin, and go back for 2 more shows tonight.
And Jesus Christ, we are so funny, you know?
You guys are.
Oh, man, it's just like, I just feel bad for everybody in town who doesn't make it to the show, you know?
There you go, yeah. Yeah, well, we came to the show, so
we had a
you blast.
You're making good decisions with your life.
There you go. We've had Grant on before. Sandra's new to the show, but we've had Grant on before.
I think I was here, actually, it was pretty early. I think it was one of your early ones.
I think that was my first or my second one.
Oh, yeah. So
that was right after the main stage.
I'm glad it's still going.
Yeah, man. Glad to have you back. As soon as I seen you was going to be in town, I had to jump on it. So,
thanks,
I appreciate you getting right back with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sandra, tell us a little bit about yourself. I found out you're not only a pretty lady, but you're a very smart lady.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, stop.
So I'm an environmental professional. I work in waste management. I've always been really passionate about waste and environmental issues. I'm Indian American, so I think that contributes a lot to it because I can always go back to the motherland and there's trash everywhere and people are getting sick. So I always was really passionate about waste management and sustainability and stuff like that.
So I
was going to ask, do you go back to India very often?
Recently I've been going every year.
Oh, wow. That is pretty often.
Yeah.
Do you still have like a lot of extended family there, like cousins or aunts and uncles, that sort of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
So how did you get into comedy?
I got laid off and had a little free time on my hand, was on unemployment, so I signed up for a comedy class at the Addison Improv in Addison, Texas. Went up, took the classes, and then I started going up on stage and writing my own material. So I was in DFW. I lived in Austin for about 1.5 years, and then I moved back to Dallas. So that's where I'm.
But you're from Boston.
But yeah, I'm from Boston. But yeah, I mean, I've performed all over the place. I've performed in strip clubs. I've performed in gun shops. Like,
you know, places where comedy was meant to be.
comedy between like strip club acts, right? Like
yes, I've done a few of those shows, and they are not fun. Let me tell you. Telling jokes is a real letdown after seeing boobs. They're like, what? I gotta do this now? No.
Yeah, who thought of that pairing? Like,
I don't know.
I think it was just like they were both like on the edges of society, so.
And it's strip clubs that like, we need something to keep people's attention between dancers. If we don't have enough dancers on staff, or we need to give the dancers a break, we need something to keep their attention. And it's too much setup to do a band, right? Mm-hmm. It's just too much work. Well, what's something that doesn't need any setup? Comedy!
Yeah.
You know?
Throw a speaker up there and a microphone.
And that's all you need.
There you go.
So, I mean, it's definitely for the benefit of the strip club, not for the benefit of the comedians.
No, yeah.
They weren't like, man, I think comedians are going to really love this. You know? I don't think that was a meeting that ever happened.
Yeah.
How do your parents feel about you being a comic? The stereotype is not just Indian parents, but any first-generation child from any immigrant family who wants to do something artistic is not very well supported.
Yeah, definitely not.
Well, I can see that.
Yeah, I had to major in engineering in college. I didn't have a choice. It was either economics or pre-med or engineering. There was no other. I couldn't even major in like English if I wanted to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you come from very strict parents.
I mean, not as far as
Their
Indian.
beliefs.
As far as Indian parents go, they're not super strict, but they're very practical.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, I understand it in some sense where it's like, hey, I worked really hard to get to America to give you a better life, and you were throwing all of that away.
Yeah.
Better to become a comedian than a stripper.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should just send them pictures of you performing at the strip club and being like, at least I'm not taking my clothes off here.
Just kind of lean against the pole, you know.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool about it.
That's nice.
My dad bought me a joke book last year for Christmas.
Oh, there you go. So they're on board. Yeah.
Those are definitely the hardest shows I've ever done, were shows in front of them, because.
And then you're like censoring yourself a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the maybe so I did it last year, and of the maybe 20 minutes of material I had at that point, I could do like 4 minutes in front of them.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Dad. I didn't mean to mention that penis.
And it's not even dirty stuff, but like sometimes I talk about them, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to hear the stuff that I'm saying about you.
Yeah.
That could be a good point, yeah. Well, because you use comedy, whatever's in your life, like your shit-kicking boots, and all the stories you were telling last night is your life.
Yeah.
I mean, in a real life.
That's the only way to be original.
Yeah.
Because you're the only one that's experienced your own life. If you just start talking about like the greeters at Walmart or something like that, where it's like that's how it becomes unoriginal, because it's like, well, everybody's seen the greeters at Walmart. That's a very easy target to make fun of, and that becomes an unoriginal premise, because maybe if you had a job as a greeter at Walmart, then that would be interesting. Then I'd be interested in that. But
then you're going to be talking about all the people coming through the door.
Yeah, true. But I do. I mean, I think that's the quickest way to being an original voice, is to just talk about yourself. And I mean, that's what I try to do in my comedy. What I try to do is, okay, let me find a personal connection to this topic, and then let me extrapolate it to a comment on society as a whole.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do with what I'm doing on stage. So, like, I'll be like, here's something that happened to me with involving a gun. Now let's talk about gun control as a whole, or something like that. Because if you just go, let's talk about gun control, people are like, whoa, that's too broad. Like, you need a way in personally.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Well, in real life, it's the funniest part of everything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's things that happen to you along the way, or you know, just things that just happen. So, you know.
But I think good comedy is relaying stuff that happened, great comedy is relaying stuff that happened and then having a comment on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, here's a funny thing that happened. It has to be, here's a funny thing that happened and this is what it means. You know? I think that's great comedy.
What you get from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how does this experience inform humanity's experiences as a whole, or inform where we are in society today, or that sort of stuff?
So,
I'm very deep.
And, and now is a time when things are deep.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
whether you want them to be or not.
Yeah. And
yeah.
Okay, just like for me, getting up and watching the news every morning is just like Christmas morning.
Yeah.
You know, what happened overnight? Because you just don't know.
Yeah. I have a joke, actually, where I say the worst part about Trump's administration to me is I never have relaxed mornings anymore.
Yeah, never.
Because I always wake up and I check my CNN app on my phone and like immediately I'm just like, God damn it! You know?
Look what he did now!
Yeah, and then just like immediately I'm like, I gotta get out of bed, we're all gonna die soon. You know? Like,
gee, okay. There you go too. You being Indian descent, what do you think about all this?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, and you're a woman to boot.
Yeah. It's but so it's, I don't know that he's pretty bad, but I also thought Bush was bad, and I also thought that Clinton, you know, had not the best legacy, and I also thought that, you know, Bush Sr. and Reagan, and I think it's good that people are aware now and they're paying attention.
Yes, I think that's the biggest silver lining of this, is that people are talking about politics that I've never. Yes, but I mean, people
and they're
are
learning.
Yeah, are like paying attention that I've never found to be political at all before. You know, they're like reading articles and they're paying attention to what's going on.
Young people, see, you're 28, you're 33, you guys are a lot younger than me.
Yeah.
And like my daughter, she's 36, 37, never voted. I've always been on her. You got to get, that one vote. No, that one vote does matter.
Yeah. So
you know?
The difference, though, to me about, I agree with what you're saying, where it's like, I don't think history will look back on George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, or H.W. as particularly effective presidents. You know, I think I was a history major in college, so I'm real into, one of the things I really like is historical rankings of presidents. Tons of different pollsters have done this, tons of different things, and most of them have Barack Obama ranked somewhere between 10 and 20. But almost all of them have like W ranked in the bottom third. They have HW ranked decently low. They have Bill Clinton maybe ranked like right in sort of the middle. But the difference between Trump and all those other people is that all those other people, while I didn't agree with what George W. Bush was doing, at least he acted presidential.
Yeah.
And Trump does not act presidential at all. Yeah, exactly, ever. And that's a huge difference to me, because that affects the way people perceive America.
Exactly.
Because we are a beacon on the hill, if you will, to a lot of the world. And I read an article recently about how, you know, Europe now is looking to Angela Merkel a lot more than they are looking to America. Yep. Because it's like, look, we figured out we don't need America to do stuff.
So I hear that, and I'm wondering how much of that is due to our leadership, and I think that it's probably both factors, but I think part of that is due to our leadership, but part of that is just kind of inevitable.
Well, it's true that no country lasts as number one forever.
We got a big boon right after World War II.
Because it wasn't fought on our soil. I actually wrote a whole op-ed piece for Huffington Post that was published like 7 years ago about America's diminishing number one status. Because I am a history person, you can look across. Portugal was number one for a long time until because they controlled the seas in the 1500s. And then Spain became number one after a while. And then the Battle of Trafalgar in 1588 sunk a bunch of Spain ships. And then they were no longer number one. Then Britain became number one for a long time. So
very deep.
Yes, yeah. I do. I mean, I like this sort of stuff. So it's, history goes in cycles. So it's naive to think that we will be number one forever. And you can already see the makings of China taking that position in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Also because they are still a developing country. They still have natural resources and things like that we simply don't have anymore because we've...
It's not even... So China, for the longest time, was sustaining... I'm a waste nerd. So they've been sustaining our recycling industry for the longest time because all of our plastic and stuff would go there and they would sift through it and use it to make the little trinkets that they sell to the rest of the world.
Really?
Yeah. So they've got their hands in everything.
Everything. Yeah.
And so it's not only like natural resources, but it's like they'll just take everyone else's trash and find some way to make it work.
Yeah. How do you feel... So, environmental science is a science that is not accepted by our entire country. Meaning that, if you go to some parts of America and you talk about global warming, they're like, that's a hoax. Or if you talk about, hey, we need to focus on renewable energy resources, and they're like, you're just trying to do regulation to hurt businesses, or... stuff like that. Do you ever experience that when you're traveling? In these conversations you have with people?
Oh, yeah. So I used to work for the state of Texas, and that was, it was pretty disheartening because they pay their employees very little, given the amount of education that they receive, and then you don't get, raises automatically at the end of every year. You have to kind of you have to have a perfect employee record, and then you have to basically ask your boss for a raise, which is kind of begging after a year of, and there was no room for growth or anything like that. But so that was my personal experience with the lack of respect that Texas has for environmental work. But yeah, they are constantly fighting with the EPA whenever the EPA comes out with new greenhouse gas regulations, anything like that. They just knee-jerk reaction.
The thing that people don't get is, people love to say oh, we're ruining the earth, and the earth will be fine. We're ruining it for ourselves.
Right. That's what Carlin said.
The earth will be here long after human beings are being here. So we're just essentially fucking ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can I swear on this?
Yeah.
We're fucking ourselves on Earth.
We're fucking up our... See, I don't worry too much about me because my old ass going to die too long from now anyway. But my grandkids, that's the people I worry about.
Yeah.
Because, okay, that's just you folks are young. When I first got in aircraft, I paid nothing for my health insurance.
Yeah.
Nothing. My daughter, when she was born, I think it cost me $25.
Yeah.
Today? No.
$40,000.
$25 doesn't pay your insurance premium.
No.
Yeah.
Wages haven't gone up. I was making $8.79 an hour when I was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That was big money back then.
Yeah.
That was crazy. And then sell a little weed, do a little DJing on the side. I had all kinds of money.
Okay.
What year was that?
1979.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow, things have changed.
So you were playing... So when you were DJing, you're telling us you were playing that garbage disco music.
You know that's right.
Oh, gross.
You know that's right.
That is one of the few music types that has not held up through the years.
Michael Jackson, Thriller.
Oh, Michael Jackson's great.
But
not the disco.
Oh, yeah.
Disco's awful.
Oh, yeah.
I would
say all
that.
Okay.
I think the music. I don't know that we're far enough. If you look past the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, I think the 60s music is the one that's held up the most as a decade of music.
Overall, yeah.
80s music is held up
I think there's good 80s music. I think there's good 50s
hair bands.
music.
The hair bands.
Yeah. But even like like Depeche Mode or that from the 80s. Like there's some great bands like that. But I think as a whole, the music that came out of the 60s is the best decade of music we've had.
I have to stick to the hair bands.
No, really?
Strictly.
Okay.
And look at how many of them are still around. AC/DC.
Yeah, but look how many bands from the 60s are still around. Even if they're not playing, but like the Beatles are still getting played all the time. The Rolling Stones are still touring.
I can match that.
The Who still gets played all the time. Like
in Kansas City, I saw the Detroit Wheels. I can't remember the guys. I can't remember the lead singer's name, but this guy is like 75-ish, and he put on a show at Knuckleheads in Kansas City. Yeah. He come out and he was playing stuff from the 60s, but now he's put that little bit of extra oomph to it.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
this old dude, I mean, and see, that's like Knuckleheads.
Yeah.
This place is in the middle of the railroad yards. I mean, literally, it's been there since 1896 or something like that. It's the original place.
Okay.
All the guys who get off the trains
go
down to the bar.
Oh.
Well, now it's turned into a big thing, man. They put in a bunch of new buildings and built a big garage. And
that's interesting. That's here in Wichita?
No, it's in Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Knucklehead Saloon.
That sounds interesting.
I'm telling you what, man.
Yeah, it used to be like a horse saloon, huh? People used to come up on their horses.
Literally.
Yeah.
They were getting off the train. They were doing their barter and their drinking.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's one of the places that you could get shot in.
Yeah. And it was okay.
You could easily die.
Yeah.
Well, and being down there in the train yards, it's right there by the river.
Yeah.
He went swimming. He never came back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, but and there you go too. The Detroit Wheels.
I don't know. Are they a hair band?
Detroit Wheels. No, they're old. Right here, the Detroit Wheels. Right here, Mitch Ryder.
Okay.
Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels formed in Detroit in 1964.
Have you ever heard of them?
No.
No, they served as Mitch Ryder's backup band from 64 to 67.
Okay.
Oh, no, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels.
There you go. And we certainly have had a... do you think... so there's been a lot of... Over the last, 2 years, there's been a lot of high-profile musicians who have died.
Oh, wow.
Does it feel like more than normal, or is it just people that are more famous than normal?
Yeah, that's what it is. I think it's just like around the time that maybe 30, 40 years ago, that's around the time we started developing these superstars. And now they're aging. Yeah.
Well, there you go, too. We were talking about Tom Petty.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that Tom Petty went through a serious heroin addiction.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of those stars.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Prince didn't have the reputation of being a drug guy at all. You know?
Well, it was all prescription drugs.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, and then everybody's like, how the fuck is Keith Richards still alive?
How is he alive?
I don't know.
I mean, and coherent.
Yeah.
That's the big question.
The one that actually bothered me the most that didn't get any attention was Fats Domino. I felt like when he died, he did not get the attention that he deserved because, I mean, he's like one of the grandfathers of rock and roll.
I mean.
And he did not. He, to me, is a musical legend.
Icon,
and did not get treated as such with his death. And that's the funny thing is, we're white people, so you ask any white person walking around, it's like, who was the first rock and roll star? And every white person will say Elvis Presley, and anybody that's not white knows that that's not right. Or anybody that knows music that knows that that's not right.
But Elvis fed off the blacks.
Oh, totally. That's what I mean. Fats Domino, Chuck Berry, like all these other people.
Exactly.
But, I mean, I guess he brought rock and roll to a wider audience, and that's what people just think of, like... But I guarantee you, 7 out of 10 people, if you walk around and ask that question, they'll say Elvis Presley.
Oh, yeah. You know? Or the Beatles.
Yeah. Damn idiots.
Shit, rock and roll was...
That's still a thing though. Like a lot of these British singers are still like they adapt American styles, like Sam Smith.
Oh yeah.
Ed Sheeran, like these guys, like they take Americans and then they change their accents to become like American accents, and then they like, and it's still kind of like.
And you're like, man, you're just doing Genuine.
Yeah, Sam Smith, he does kind of like slow, like almost. It's like soul.
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah, totally. So it's still happening.
Yeah.
Well, the blues will never die.
Oh, totally.
I mean,
well, I love jazz, man. And, and you know, a lot of people say that the only two true American art forms are jazz and stand-up comedy. So I think that there's a lot of similarities. And those are the things that were created in America by Americans.
Okay, well, let me give you a little boost there, too. If you are ever in Kansas City, go to the Phoenix.
Okay.
Shout out to the Phoenix. Shout out to my girls. Shout out to Chili. Dude, this is the coolest jazz bar I have ever been in my life.
All right, I love a good jazz bar.
They got great food.
What type of jazz are they playing? Do you know?
It could be blues.
Okay.
It could be jazz. The last time I was there, they had a black lady that was and they don't really have a stage. They have a corner of the room. It's actually an old speakeasy.
Okay.
From back in the early 1900s and stuff. Another place you could get killed at. But, they had this black lady that had walked away from the band, and she's walking through the place, got a wireless microphone, and she is kicking it.
Yeah.
I mean,
grooving.
You are automatically out of your seat and got to get up and dance.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just standing right there at your table, it don't matter. That place is so much fun. And see, now Missouri, which it doesn't affect you guys because you don't smoke, but now Missouri has loosened the weed law.
Oh, okay.
It's like a $20 fine if you get caught.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. You know, you got to outside burning one. Oh, well, here's your $20.
Yeah.
But it is. If you are ever in Kansas City, I highly recommend the Phoenix, and all you folks too.
Yeah. It's funny right now in talking about weed laws, you know, because California, January 1st, recreational marijuana just became legal. And the funniest part of it, the funniest part of it though is we have a lot of those, like on highways, we have a lot of those light up billboards where they can put a message on them. You know what I'm talking about? And for years they're always like, drive drunk, get pulled over, like that sort of stuff. And for the first time ever, now all of them say like, get high, get pulled over. You know, like, they're all saying,
really?
Yeah, they're all about weed now.
So how are they going to test you?
I don't know. I mean, because you can't you can't breathalyze them.
No.
There's no like immediate. I mean, I think there's a lot of figuring out to do in general because you know people want to start opening brick and mortars, but they're trying to figure out regulations for all that sort of stuff right now. Like it doesn't seem like there's a standard in place for anything about that right now.
See, and Jeff Sessions is trying to shut all that shit down again.
Because he's an old white man.
Well,
and then he watched Reefer Madness, and he still thinks that it matters.
I think he's in the pockets though of
the prisons.
That's what I heard.
Oh, really?
Because all these prisons are paying now.
Yeah, all these for-profit prisons. It's like the most bullshit thing I can think of.
That's why they don't. Okay, that's why they won't just go. Look, we're gonna make it all legal because they're gonna allow all these people out of jail. That's a hell of a lot of people coming out of prison at one time.
And it's not even necessarily for-profit prisons, but I mean, prison labor it's the backbone of like a lot of our industries nowadays. Like a lot of.
What else besides? Obviously, one of the stereotypes is license plates, but what else is like a big?
I'm pretty sure like farming. They use prisoners for farming.
Really?
Yeah, and like here. They transpose books into Braille.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which it is pretty interesting because the guy shows a book this big. He says, by the time it's done, it's 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
Which would be a good job for a good person.
Yeah.
But instead they farm it all out to,
you think
non-consenting.
You know what would be funny though? Do you think anybody's ever been reading Braille and it's like a prisoner put a message in it like, if you read this, send a cake with a knife in it to Fort Leavenworth. Like just in the middle of a book. Yeah,
because nobody's going to go back and proofread all that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, and we've had a lot of problem with our prison here in El Dorado. They're paying them guards $15 an hour.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
For all the hazard that you're putting yourself in. You know, it's like wow.
Yeah.
And now all the prisoners are getting all riled up and shit because they know that the guards ain't making any money, and the guards are all quitting and shit. So they're having all these uprisals. It's like they say, it's just a matter of time till they just go fucking nuts.
It's like how a bank will have a security guard and pay him $12 an hour, and he's like, man, motherfucker, if someone comes in here with a gun, I ain't stopping shit.
Yeah. Here you go. Here's my gun. I'll get on the ground.
Yeah. You're gonna really depend on Carl in that moment. You know?
Carl, what are you doing on the floor?
Man, I did not get paid enough for this.
Yeah, why would you put yourself in that kind of position? I mean, obviously you need a job, but
that's all it is.
Yeah. My dad was a security guard at a college for a little while, and he was always like a guy that was like, all the students liked him because he was a guy that would be like, hey, like, knock it off. And then not get him in trouble, just be like, look, you're going to do this, be a little smarter about it, okay? If you're blatant, I have to take you in trouble, I have to get you in trouble, but if you, like, put a little thought into where and when you're going to do this stuff, then you can do it, Keep
you and me out of trouble.
Exactly. Oh, there's all these dummies out there. Yeah. Oh, well.
I fit into that a lot of times.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of last night's show? Did you have a good time? The 8 o'clock people were dry.
The 10 o'clock people were drier.
Really?
Yeah, that was rough. The 8 o'clock people, and Grant was saying after the show, people were coming up to you and showing you love, even if they weren't, laughing.
Yeah, they weren't like super loud laughers, but they all came up and were like, that was such a great show, I had such a great time and stuff. And you're like, okay, I mean, I guess you really enjoyed it, even if you weren't vocalizing it.
They were a quiet crowd.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard the manager. I have legitimately never heard it that quiet. So a lot of times, like in a comedy club, there's like a God microphone is what they call it, where it just kind of comes over the PA and they go like, hey everybody, happy Friday night, welcome to the Looney Bin Comedy Club. Are you excited for a great show? And only when the manager did that, literally only one person went, woo! And everybody else was silent. I have never seen it be that quiet when someone's like, are you ready for a great show? And everybody's like, I don't think so. No, it's been a tough week. I'm here, but that's as much as you're going to get.
I'm just not feeling it tonight. That's the bad part, because that's 10:30. By then you should have some drinks, a little weed.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple bumps in you or something.
Yeah.
So I think there was a birthday party. And I think that might have been part of the problem. So the birthday girl and her mother were like very nice and very gracious, and they were laughing. But like, I think a lot of people just kind of got dragged out.
Yeah.
Just to support.
They were like,
her birthday.
They were like, I hate comedy. I hate comedy, but
17 degrees
Susan gets to pick.
Yeah. And they were the ones up front, so they were the ones you could see. So.
Yeah.
It was a learning experience. Vince, the headliner, gave me some notes after. He was like, I need to teach you how to not completely alienate the audience the minute you get on stage. I think as a female comedian, it can be tough sometimes because people don't expect you to do well.
Well, there's
and
a
they're not
stereotype
rooting for
of
you.
women aren't funny, even though there are plenty of examples to prove that otherwise.
And I'm going to tell you what, we have got some great ones around here. Megan Welsh, I don't know if you know who she is. She's a local comedian. She used to do the show.
Yeah.
Katie Getty, this lady is so fun. She had me just rolling. Erica Prophet, black lady. Jay Shanice, another black lady.
Yeah.
She had me laughing so hard, I about crapped myself, man.
Well, so a lot of that stuff is like perceptional. Like, you know, what's his name? Who's that douchebag who was like super famous for a minute? Dane Cook.
Oh,
Dane
yeah,
Cook.
yeah.
People thought he was hilarious, and then they just learned better. And
Yeah.
Yeah, he was still out huge stadiums.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, God bless him. Like, he's still, I think, doing pretty well for himself. But it's just like comedy falls in and out of style. So like, I think that sort of perception that women aren't funny, like, I think that also will like come in and out. Play. So like, because if you look at like back in the day, like Ellen DeGeneres, like Whoopi Goldberg, Roseanne, like they were all doing like big things, and then all of a sudden something happened, and
it's weird.
like, bro comedy took over, and women stopped being funny.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think. Now that you say that about that time is when Dane and some of the other comedians, Larry the Cable Guy,
Carlos Mencia.
Yeah.
They were doing the big stadiums.
The hyper masculine, like bro kind of thing. Yeah. So it's interesting how it kind of falls in.
That is
like,
true.
The fashion changes.
Well, and the one that gets sad for me is, do you know who Andrew Dice Clay is?
Yeah, I love Andrew.
So, but he is like, I still see him around LA sometimes, and he still does the exact same thing. Like leather jacket, cut off gloves, like smoking a cigarette, and to me it just feels kind of sad now because it's like
he's done it for so long.
Well, it's like when you were a 30-year-old, this seemed cutting edge, but now you're a 60-year-old, and it just feels like you're clinging to something that ain't there anymore.
Well, you know he's a compulsive gambler.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Dude,
no.
He just had a series on for not very long, maybe just one season. But that guy, he's the kind of guy that'll sit down and lose $1 million playing poker.
Oh boy, yeah, I don't have that kind of.
Yeah, you're not. Well, you're not
I'm
gonna
not
stay
that
rich.
risk
Like
taker.
no one's gonna stay rich for that long.
He was saying he needed $1 million for whatever, and he sat down at a poker table and played for like 48 hours and won his $1 million.
Yeah,
and walked away.
Oh, one of my roommates right now is a comic, and he used to be a gambling addict, and has gotten it under control. But he still will go down to like the tables, like the poker tables in LA, and be like, "All right, need to make my rent," and stuff like that. And he does it most of the time, but that's like a stressful way to live.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Well, you know
that's what I mean. Is that he's a good player, so he like. More often than not comes out ahead, but not always.
Well, and there you go. If you go in needing the money, generally you ain't gonna get it.
Yeah. One of my favorite South Park episodes of all time is the town needs to have they need this certain amount of money in order. I forget the reason why, but they essentially they're going to lose the city unless they come up with this amount of money. And so they go to the casino, and they're like, we all pooled our $10,000 so we can try to make $1 million, and so we can save the town. And they throw it on like a craps table, and they do it. They make $1 million, and then all the kids are like, awesome, we can save the town. And the parents are like, no, we got to keep going. And they're like, no, we have enough to save the town. And they're like, no, you don't understand. You can't stop when you're on a streak. And they're like, there's no streak. We're just trying to save the town. And they're like, we have to do it. And then they end up losing all the money.
There you go. There you go.
But it's like, oh man, it's so funny to me.
See, and I this is my best adventure. Go down to Oklahoma with some people that don't even like me. I get down there, I lose $700.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it's just me and the dealer at the table, and we're playing speed blackjack. It's bam, 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 bam. I walk away with $1,300.
Wow.
Hello.
There you go.
But like I say, that's not generally the case.
Oh, there's a comedian in LA who has like the greatest luck of anybody. So he got picked. You can look up this clip. He went to do The Price is Right. This is probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. He gets picked to go up on The Price is Right. And he's, they didn't know this at the time, but he's on mushrooms at the time. And so he's like, he tells the story like on stage now. And they asked him like, what do you do for a living? And he honestly said, he says on The Price is Right, I'm a skateboarding rabbi. And then he ends up winning a car on The Price is Right.
That's nice.
Then, earlier in 2017, he's at a casino with a bunch of friends, and they're like, they're leaving, they're walking out, and then he sees a Big Bang Theory slot machine, and he's like, this is super funny. I obviously got to put $1 into this Big Bang Theory slot machine, and wins $1.2 million.
Oh my God.
What?
John Toll?
No, but you know, John Toll used to live in the house I live in now.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he's getting ready to be on the podcast.
Oh, nice. Yeah, John Toll's a good dude.
Him and Eli.
John's from Dallas, isn't he? Or
from Texas.
I
don't know if he's from Dallas,
Texas.
but
okay.
yeah.
Oh, so you guys, you know him?
Yeah,
I know
comic.
who he is. He comes through town a lot.
I live in his old bedroom right now.
He's getting ready to do some shows with Eli.
Yeah. No, this guy that I'm talking about is Josh Androsky. Very funny comedian if you want to look him up. But
Dude,
he's just like
$1.2 million.
I know.
I mean,
Hello.
that's nice.
Yeah.
But like, how many people do you know that have like ever gotten 2 things like that in their life? Where I'm like, man, you're the luckiest motherfucker I've ever met. I mean, great for him, and he's a good dude too. So I'm happy that it went to like a good dude. You know what I mean?
Hey, bartender.
Yeah.
What?
Are you bartending? We have a bartender today. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, John Toll. Here's a fun story about John Toll. He in the bedroom that I lived in. Apparently, this is what they just told me about him. They were like, yeah, he didn't have a bed for like 6 months. He just had a couch in the bedroom and just slept on a couch in the bedroom. Yeah. It's like, all right.
Hey, bartender. Barb.
I ain't too goddamn bartender.
Oh,
look at that.
Damn, violence.
Yeah. I like the attitude. Yeah.
Yeah, see your shirt?
Yeah.
My anger management
Yeah.
class pisses me off. Hey, mine. You're the one in the anger management class. Guys, I'm really glad you came in today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Time out for the day. We're going to have a little lunch.
Yeah.
We always have a good time when we're together.
You're a good dude, man.
And you still see Tamer?
Yes, I see him quite regularly. The last time I was here on the podcast, I was with a very funny comedian named Tamer Katan. And
my favorite Jewish, African.
Yeah.
He's like 5 different things.
Yeah.
Egyptian.
Yeah.
He's Egyptian and African.
Yeah.
I just knew the FBI was going to come tearing the doors off the house.
He's a thoughtful guy. So he is
very insightful.
Yeah.
He is a very intelligent guy.
He and I have good conversations together. Yeah. I like Tamer a lot. Yeah, he was in New York for a little while, and he's back in LA now and doing well. He's writing for a TV show. I can't remember which one right now, but...
Well, you remember when he got here? Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
You remember when he got here, we had to print out that deal for him. That Yeah, he had something kicking as soon as he was back in LA. So.
Yeah. So.
Well, what do you got coming up, young lady?
I don't have a whole lot coming up. This is like my big thing for the moment. I start grad school next week, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, let's see. I'm doing storytelling. I'm doing my first storytelling show.
Oh, that's fun.
In March, and I have to come up with a story for the storytelling thing.
You have any ideas?
I think I'm gonna delve more into my grandfather. I know I've told jokes about him, but there's more there.
I love storytelling shows because people are willing. So the way I like to describe it is that live performance is like a roller coaster, and if you can take people down, then that makes the ups feel even higher.
Yeah.
And the problem is because at a comedy club, they come in with the expectation of just like laughs, and we're not going to get that deep. We're not going to do that sort of stuff. So if you try to go down with them, they get off the ride.
Yeah.
They get off the ride here, and the problem is if you start here and you go down and they get off the ride down here, and then they never come back up with you, then just the rest of the show, they're down here the whole time.
Yeah.
But in a storytelling show, I honestly feel like I have gotten some of the biggest, most pure laughs I've ever gotten in my career at a storytelling show, because you're not a slave to the punchline.
Yeah.
And I can go down here for 2 minutes and get real dark and deep, and then when I come back up here, they're like, love you for it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And it's so cathartic. I really enjoy doing them.
So this is actually an experimental show, and I think there are a couple of these in Dallas, but it alternates storytelling, comedy, storytelling, comedy.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, the comedians, it's a tough gig to make people laugh after hearing, like, a traumatizing story.
Yeah.
But honestly, the more traumatizing story, the better they do coming out of it.
Well, because then people are like,
yeah.
okay, I need to like reset for again, like
and then
release.
you get them all the way down, but then you throw something that just blows up in their face, and oh shit, I never seen that coming.
Well, like I like dark humor sometimes, and at comedy clubs, a lot of times people just don't go for dark humor. They're like, I came here to forget about my problems, not like think about new ones, you know. But like, here's an example. I have a story that I'll do at storytelling shows about a woman who lied to me about being pregnant for 8 months. So for 8 months, I thought that I found out that wasn't true and stuff like that. But, like, I have a joke in there, and at comedy clubs I've tried to do it, and people don't laugh. But in storytelling shows, they think it's super funny. And one of the jokes is, you know, about 5 minutes after this woman told me that she was pregnant, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to help raise this child. But, like, when you're not expecting that conversation, those aren't the first thoughts that pop into your head, you know? Like, when she told me she was pregnant, my very first thought was like, if I kill myself, she can't make me raise this child. You know? Like,
got out of that one.
Yeah, you know?
Dodge that
Which is like a real dark punchline, but it is true. I mean, that is a good thing that I thought of.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I think comedy, I think the point of humor in, like, the human psyche is to relieve a tension and then to relieve cognitive dissonance. So if you can create tension or you can create cognitive dissonance and then relieve it like that, I think that's the most effective way to go.
Yeah, the best example I've ever heard of that, creating tension and then releasing it, my favorite comedian of all, if I could pick one, is probably Dana Gould. Do you know Dana? He's really dark and funny, but irreverent at the same time. And he has a joke where he describes the Black Dahlia murder for like a minute and a half. And he just like gruesome details, like her mouth slit ear to ear, you know, giving her a gruesome grin, her organs drained, and you know, and like he's going super into this for like a minute and a half, and then he goes, and to this day, police still have no idea, some 60 years later, what she said to deserve that. But it must have been a doozy. and then he like makes fun of himself for having that punchline. So he's a very like progressive guy. So
he was saying it was obviously like tongue in cheek.
Yeah, totally. But it's like I have seen that joke bring the house down, like standing ovation, and I have seen that joke get not a single laugh,
crash and burn.
And then the entire rest of his set, nobody laughs at another punchline. Yeah. Like, it just torpedoes his entire show.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's, like, weird where it's like...
It's a big risk.
Totally. Yeah. But it's, like, it goes for, like, 2 minutes without even attempting to be funny. Just super dark.
Yeah.
But it is that, like, if you can... The people that are with him creating that tension, when you release the tension, it's huge. It's, like, the biggest laugh I've ever seen. but sometimes people don't want to like go down that path.
See, and that's kind of funny because you saying all that. I have got into this big Larry David thing, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Dude, that guy makes me laugh so fucking much. I'll tell you, and the ones that I laugh at the hardest is the ones that he's trying to fight back the laughter. Because he's wanting to just fall apart. And in the meantime, I am falling apart. And you can catch him, he starts to laugh, and they probably had to cut away and come back because he cracked himself up. His humor is probably
so neurotic.
Well, why? What happened in the kitchen? What happened? Like I gotta know.
I do that neurotic thing a little bit sometimes too. I get cast for like that similar type sometimes. Where I'm like, can we just keep the glass on the table? Just please don't pick up the glass. Don't just touch. Just leave the glass there. You know, it's like that type of comedy.
Comedy, and like you say, it releases something. That's just like doing this. This is so much fun to me. Having you guys come in and find out what you're doing, having you back. It's a good, and to be able to go back and see it is really nice. Especially when I've done a good show. It's like, oh, well, that's pretty crazy.
Absolutely,
you go back and you look at it.
Creating something, just creating anything is very. Because it feels very pure, where I'm just creating.
Exactly.
I'm not doing what somebody else tells me. I'm not working for a paycheck. I'm just creating.
I'm just having fun, hanging out with people, meeting new people, which is very cool. I'm very glad I got to meet you because you're a very funny lady.
Absolutely. There.
A lady from India with steel-toed shit kickers on. So, let's plug. Where's your storytelling?
Or just give your Twitter or something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Facebook, Twitter.
Yes, follow me on Instagram at Sandra Balan. Oh, sorry, at Sandra Got Jokes. So, all one word. Sandra, Sandra Got Jokes. Same for Twitter, and then if you go to facebook.com/Sandra Got Jokes, you can find me on Facebook as well. So please friend me, follow me. Love to have you. And I mean, I end up like making friends with a lot of people who just like follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram.
Cool.
That's great. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the best parts of this job is that we get to meet cool people all over.
Yeah.
See, and it's funny because I smoked a lot of weed over this year on the show.
Yeah.
Which is illegal in the state of Kansas, but I didn't care.
Okay.
So I got 200 people watching me. Oh well, damn. Somebody's going to call 911.
That's pretty good though. 200 people.
I'm up to 215 now.
Wow.
So, but all my Twitter, I got 470 Twitter followers, and they're all potheads.
Yeah.
Every one of them. It's just a giant field of potheads.
Yeah.
I love it. Ted's Marijuana, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Go visit Ted. That's one of my biggest followers, man.
That's great.
He's a great guy. We went out in between jobs this year in July. We went out there on the bikes, and we went to go see him. But both times we got to Colorado Springs because we wanted to go up Pikes Peak and all that.
Yeah.
Man, it come a rainstorm. I mean, the sky was as black as this chair right here. 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Which, probably the second day, it was probably a good thing because it got down to like 3 below on top of Pikes Peak.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on bikes?
Yeah.
Jeez.
In July. It was 3 below on top of Pikes Peak.
How can you be on the bike on that?
Well, I wouldn't have been up there at night. Yeah, and during the day, it warms on up.
Yeah.
But at night, it's cold up there. They might get snow,
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, because you're 14,000 feet up. So
I've actually peaked a bunch of those 14ers, and I used to mountain climb a bunch.
Really?
Yeah, I've got my name in the. They do logs on the top of those 14. They're called 14ers. I think I've peaked 6 of them. So they're in Colorado. Yeah.
Wow.
Real outdoorsman here.
So like Independence Pass and
all
that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. It's fun.
It is. I love it out there. I mean, well, now they got weed. So we stayed in Pueblo, and we had a smoking room. So I asked the lady, I said, so it's a smoking room? Yes, it's a smoking room. That's what, shit, man, I'll tell you what, that was probably the most laid back trip I've ever been on in my life. Because everywhere I went, I could just get high whenever I want.
Yeah. Nice.
You know?
Yeah.
Walk outside, smoke a cigarette, take a couple hits off doobie, move on.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we hang around and just get wasted or anything,
Yeah.
you know, or we're getting drunk.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So okay, you're Sandra got jokes.
Sandra got jokes.
Sandra got jokes. Look her up, guys. 2 shows tonight.
7:30 and 10.
7:30 and 10 at the Looney Bin.
And 1 show tomorrow, even.
And 1 show tomorrow night. What time is the show tomorrow night?
8, I
8,
want to say.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right on.
I should be more professional and know that for
Yeah,
sure.
but you can look it up at wichita.looneybincomedy.com.
That's
There you
right.
go.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what do you got coming up, young man?
Oh man, I got so much coming up.
Where are you headed from here?
I go down to Oklahoma City from here. Then I go to Rochester, Minnesota. Then I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Then I'm in New York for a little bit. Then I'm up into the Bay Area and Southern Oregon, and that's all just February.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Wow, you are working.
Oh yeah, and then in March I'll be in Tulsa, not too far, and then I'll be in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'll be in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
So you're doing the Looney Bin in Little Rock?
Yep. In
Wow.
March I'm doing the Tulsa Looney Bin and the Little Rock. Looney
Cool.
Bin. Yeah.
Sioux Falls, is that the Sioux Falls Snow Gym or?
No, it's a club called Boss's Comedy Club.
Oh.
Yeah, because
In
I'm
February in South Dakota.
Oh boy, don't remind me.
Oh,
I am
no
nervous.
shit. No shit.
I am quite terrified.
You got the chains on the car.
Oh boy. Yeah, we'll
Wow, no shit.
see. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Sometimes you just go where the money is, but when I was getting offered those gigs, I was like, oh, do I have to? Yeah, okay, I have to. But
You had to get a day job.
yeah, I know, but I'm not looking forward to being in North Dakota in February.
Wow, no shit.
That's what, yeah, they have a comedy festival up there, and I was thinking
Oh,
about
yeah.
applying, and I was like, I don't think I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm that committed to my craft yet.
How long have you been doing comedy?
This is my 4th year. I started in January 2014. Yeah, this is my 4th year.
So do you do a lot of comedy in Dallas?
Yeah, I try to as
Yeah.
much as I can. Try to get out. Yeah, they have open mics all over the place. And they've got comedy open mics. They've got like 7 clubs in the area.
Oh, cool.
And then they've got like poetry open mics. And if you go up to Denton is like a mini Austin. Like it's a lot of like young people. They're setting up their own comedy festivals up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's cool. So yeah, I'm just trying to. I'm really interested in. I think I want to set roots down in Dallas, so I'm trying to like get involved in the community and see how comedy fits in with everything else that's going on out there, because there's a ton going on out there.
Well, and I imagine your job's pretty stable there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of difference.
Oh, for sure.
You know, and working 4 days a week, like you say, yeah, that opens up that extra day for you. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to make it work. I recently performed at so there's like the comedy, there's like the mainstream comedy clubs, but then there are just other venues that put on comedy shows. So
Yeah.
right.
I recently performed at the Black Academy of Arts and Letters, which is I think they
Black
focus.
arts? Sounds like black magic.
Oh, you prejudiced some bitch.
I'm just giving a
You
goof.
racist.
Just doing a little makeup ups. Just being a little silly Billy, you know.
But no, it's just like it's a black theater, but it's a theater inside the convention center. So it's just cool that like there's all of these like different like art initiatives that are going on.
And where was that? In Dallas?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
right in downtown.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
That sounds real cool.
So
Well, anytime you get a different venue, you know, like you say, Okay, just like we did the one down in Mulvane, Kansas. Do you know where Mulvane is?
No.
Okay, it's just.
And I know Kansas pretty well.
It's just down the road here, down from the casino.
Okay.
But it's just a little old bar. The guy is dedicated to everything. He's got bands. He's got comedy coming in. I think we had 8 comedians. I emceed the show.
Oh, really? Look at you.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I like emceeing.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean,
Well, you're a personality.
well, I like hanging out.
Yeah.
I like hanging out with you guys. You know, 'cause
Yeah.
it's just fun. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, that's why I do this. It's just fun.
Yeah.
You know, and hanging out with everybody down there, it was. The one lady had never been on stage and just shredded.
Wow.
Oh, great.
She
That's
came
nice.
out and shredded it. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
you would have thought she would have been up there
Yeah.
doing her thing all this time.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
she's just a waitress down there.
Oh, that's awesome.
She just decided she wanted to do the comedy. All right. And
Yeah.
then just kicked ass.
Yeah.
So, you know, who knows what's going to, you know, how that inspired her.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because we had a real nice crowd. We probably had, I don't know, 30, 40 people.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's solid.
you know, and like you say, going from the storytelling, because you're just making your craft better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Whatever, yeah.
The way I like to say it is, it's all just adding things to your tool belt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They all inform each other, even if they're not the exact same thing.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
that's like we did my first stand-up, we did at a coffee shop here in town. No booze, no nothing. They got couches sitting around,
Yeah.
and drinking some coffee.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, and I did for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
It worked out all right.
That's fun.
I want to get into it
You
more,
should,
but
man.
I like the MC idea.
Yeah.
I want to put on the shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want.
If you can bring in the crowds, you can book the comedy venue and
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
because you could have it in any bar that want, which, okay, and you guys know, some places just aren't set up for it.
No, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You can't force it into every place.
Yeah, you try and put somebody back over here in the corner, and
Yeah.
these people over here can't see, and nobody.
Yeah.
There's certain places, like I do know of one little bar that's got a nice little stage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only about this high.
That's perfect.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
everything is straight from in front of the
Yeah,
stage.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do it.
So,
Sure,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's kind of where I want to go.
Good.
Yeah,
Right on.
have you guys come in. And,
Yeah. Well,
Since
let me
you're
know what
already
you do.
here, yeah.
Exactly. We're
You
already
know,
here. I'm good.
So,
Yeah.
well, we'll stay in touch. And
Yeah.
Sandra, thank you very much
Thank
for coming
you so
in.
much.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Come to a show. Good to see you.
The show tonight, 2 shows tonight, 1 tomorrow night. Thanks for tuning in. How I shut us off.
All right.
My IT guy's gone.
How are you going to OKC tomorrow?
I'm not going tomorrow. I'm going on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. I was going to offer you a ride back.
Oh,
'cause,
thanks. Do you literally go through OKC? Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I've already paid for a bus.